Good day, Facebook and YouTube. This is Jim Blythe and Cedric White, my co pilot, navigator. We are on board for you. We are here for you. This is Veterans Impact Show. We've got a great show, and we're going to be telling you about a great event that's coming up. So stay with us, share, subscribe, be a part of Veterans Impact Show. We're here for you. Welcome to the Veterans Impact Show, where our motto is Charlie Mike. Continue the mission. I'm your host, Jim Blythe, U.S. Navy Vietnam veteran and certified senior advisor. Join me as we feature veterans who continue the mission of leadership and commitment in our community after serving our great nation. Why, you never know who you're going to meet or where we're going to go. So welcome aboard. Hey, what a great day. Cedric, I am so glad you're feeling better. You had a little bit of an operation, but you're doing really, really great. And thank you, everybody, for praying for Cedric. I want to say a special thank you to DBTV Network and Amazon Fire and Roku for carrying us, and the AUN TV network out in California. We're going to figure out a way to get out to California because I love Sacramento, love San Francisco, love Santa Rosa, all that area, and maybe do a personal appearance. Just an excuse to get out there, right? Okay, and I want to say also thank you so much to Nathaniel for his Ascend podcasting and all you've done for us. And what it's really been a great upgrade, and it's been a fantastic ride, and I'm very, very thankful. I want to say a special thank you to my company, Fairway Independent Mortgage. I'm a reverse mortgage specialist, been working with seniors for over 20 years. And basically, my NMLS number is 311548, and the company one is 2289. We are an equal opportunity lender, and therefore the attorneys are all happy now. And everybody can say amen to that one. I also want to thank Symbios Integrated Health, because they are working with us now, and we're working with them to save lives. They are going to be a sponsor of our upcoming event we're going to be talking about. And this is a company that I am just so amazed at what they've done to save lives and help people. Cedric, you are a minister, marriage counselor, Navy veteran. You're one of the most amazing people I have ever worked with. And I just want to say thank you also for being on board. So let's talk about Help, Hope, and Healing Symposium that's going to be on September the 6th. Here in Dallas at the Hope Center. So, Sarah, tell us a little bit about what you're doing and what your participation is. And then I want to introduce or talk about Captain Dave Carey and what he's doing.
Well, the first of all, good morning to everyone. And it's wonderful to be back. I do thank you for your prayers and your support while we were out. We're getting better every day. And I want to thank Jim for keeping my seat. But on September the 6th, we are very excited to bring to the North Texas area, to Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex in Plano at the Hope Center, the Help, Hope, and Healing Symposium. Jim we both operated in silos, didn't know one another existed until there was a program that Jim attended, I spoke on, and we found that we had some synergy. And it was one of those things where immediately we see, hey, we can work together because we have our hearts are the same. And that is literally to help and support our vets, our military, anything that we can do. There's so many things going on out there. There's so many things that are happening, but where is the melting pot? Where is the hub where people can come and get that information? Well, that's what we're doing. That's what we've been able to do more of on the Veterans Impact Show. And then on September the 6th, we're going to do even more of that on the Help, Hope, and Helping Symposium. We're bringing in great speakers. I'm excited. I've never heard Captain David Carey before, but I'm excited. I went out on his website, did some research. I got excited. And my wife will tell you, it takes a little bit to excite me. I got very excited. And then a minister who has a message after my own heart, and that is about forgiving. And it doesn't have to be a military or an active duty situation. It could be, we can carry on a lot of things that have happened in our life, and there's a weight that we carry when we carry unforgiveness. And then I get the opportunity to come on and sort of bring it all together. We're going to talk more about help, hope, and healing, and where we come from and where we're looking to go to. We're going to have exhibitors there, people like Symbios, who is very near and dear to our hearts, who's doing something for the veteran community that most people, probably, I bet you 98%, Jim, if not 99% of vets and military don't know about Symbios. But they're going to
right. We're going to be getting them there.
That's right.
And let's talk about, can we talk about Dave Carey first?
Let's do that.
All right. So let me give you a little background. My first squadron in the Navy, my first duty station after boot camp and A school, was a squadron aboard the USS Oriskany. And it just so happened that one of the people I met was Lieutenant Commander John McCain. I was also given the opportunity to do Armed Forces radio in the morning. I did not know, and this was probably one of the most decorated squadrons in the Navy. They had the highest casualty rate in the Navy during the air war on North Vietnam. They had 5 POWs and they had 12 killed in action. So Diane and I go to a reunion, and this squadron was called the Saints, and she's sitting next to this guy, and his story, she was listening to his story, and I was listening, and I was going, oh my goodness. Then he got up to be the featured speaker, an amazing speaker. And he talks about what happened to him August 31st, 1967. Right. He was shot down, and his story about how he got shot down and then where he ended up in a rice paddy with, as he says, a few million Vietnamese with rifles, wrapping him in ropes and then stripping his uniform off of him with machetes through the ropes and carrying him through to the Hanoi POW camp, and what he went through in terms of torture. His first initiation to that was torture that was so bad that he couldn't use his arms for weeks. That to eat, they would put a bowl of rice in front of him, and he would just have to put his face down like a puppy dog. Dave Carey is one of the most amazing speakers I've ever heard, and he has written a book, The Ways We Choose. I got to tell you, Dave has been on our program. Dave has become a really good friend. He's down in Georgetown, Texas. And Dave, in this book, talks about the lessons of life from the POWs. Now, what a lot of people don't know is the Vietnam POWs have fared well, done better than any other POWs in this nation's history. We know that because every year they go to Pensacola and they do an assessment, and there is a control group, and they compare them side by side.
Right.
There is better mental health, better physical health. There has been more success in business and life with the Vietnam POWs than any other group of POWs in this nation's history, even more than just the control group.
Right.
You can attribute this to a lot of things, but the biggest thing is the leadership that they had, starting with Stockdale, who was actually the Carrier Air Group commander flying one of the A4s from VA-163, was shot down, was amazing. And they developed communication systems. They developed an attitude. They developed 5 things that Dave's going to talk about that helped them to not just survive being a POW, but to thrive being a POW.
Right.
Now, think about it for a second, Cedric. You and I were in the Navy, but we've also encountered a lot of people over our lives, many people who've had all kinds of problems. And in many cases, I'm not going to say all, but in many cases, and I know in my case, some of the problems that I went through, we brought them on ourselves.
Right.
We chose badly.
Right.
Okay. If you can go to a biblical, talk about David and Bathsheba, David chose real badly in that deal. So it's biblical. We do that. But these guys, the ways that they chose enable them to survive and to thrive and to come home and be amazing leaders. We just lost one of them up in McKinney, Texas, and I knew him fairly well. He was an amazing speaker. But Dave's book, this is truly a wonderful book, and it's not just a book for military. He teaches this in national companies all over the world. It's a motivational book, how we choose.
Exactly. A lot of people, I get to talk to a lot of people. Of course, we do family and marital relationship counseling. And quite often they're there not because of extenuating circumstances, not because of what somebody else did. They're there because of the choices that they made. And what Dave is talking about, and I don't want to give it away because it's a very exciting story. But when he talks about how he wound up in the situation and being a prisoner of war, how things happened, and when he went through what we're talking about, right? Stages of when help seems to be moving away, stages of how to see and maintain hope, stages of whether you're healthy at the moment or becoming healthy. Those are very vital things that people, whether military or not, have to deal with. And that's why we're doing this. He has a very invigorating story. Again, as I was watching it and listening, I was very, very intrigued. And I think anybody who attends this, they're going to leave with an understanding. Jim, if I may, I always compare it to Jesus. And Jesus and Job are my two comparative biblical people that I use, right? And when I start feeling sorry for myself, when I start getting down on myself, and I sort of line myself up to what Job went through and what Jesus went through. And something quite often that helps me, that gives me hope, because I haven't gone through any of the things that they've gone through to that level. Even with Captain Carey here, most people have no clue about being a prisoner of war, shot down out of a plane. They don't know about that.
Well, one of the things, several things here too, to give you a little bit of background. The North Vietnamese had not signed the Geneva Convention, so they could do whatever they want to. And one of the things they did was physical torture, beatings, psychological torture, and they told them, "You're never going home."
Right.
They took away all hope whatsoever. Right. And I got to tell you, life without hope, that's a bad deal. That's a prescription for suicide.
Right.
Because if you don't have hope, where are you going to go?
Exactly.
Now, you talk about you look to Jesus and you look to Job, and that's kind of funny that you said that. I didn't know that, because I actually was an actor many years ago, and I played Job in a play called JB by Archibald MacLeish. And to play that character, I know what you're talking about, but you can't understand what Job went through if you haven't ever been through a situation of little or no hope.
Exactly.
Of basically being in the dung heap. I mean, think about what Dave Carey and all of the rest of those men went through. I also knew Sam Johnson, who was a congressman, now the area that I live in. And I got to tell you, Sam Johnson was an amazing man as well. So was Stockdale. He ran for vice president with. So why wouldn't you want to take the lessons learned? I'd like to go another step further. One of the ones that I really relate to is Solomon, King Solomon.
Okay.
Wisest man in the world. I made so many mistakes in my life that one of the things, I went to a friend of mine when I was really down and out, and I said, "Dick, my life's a shambles right now. I'm working for people this is not good." And he goes, "Read the book of Proverbs." And I go, "Dick, I'm in trouble. I need help."
Right.
He goes, "Read the book of Proverbs." And I'm like, "Dick, what is this going to do for me?" You know what? That was the dumbest thing I ever forgot to do till later on. I read the book of Proverbs and I go, you know what? If I had lived my life like the book of Proverbs, I wouldn't
Yeah.
be in this mess.
Right.
Whoa. So all of a sudden, you take Dave Carey's 5 things that they did, and you can start living your life that way. You're not going to end up being a prisoner of your own mistakes. Whoa.
And Jim, I think for anybody who's listening, for anybody who's contemplating, is this going to be worth my while? I can unequivocally say that yes, not only yes, it is, but you're going to walk away with not. I don't like tidbits. You know, people are looking for quick hits, tips. Right? People are looking for tips. No, we're going deeper than tips. I tell people, if you're looking for tips, go to Google. But if you're looking for substance, if you're looking for something that can change your life, then you want to attend a symposium like what we're putting on, like the Help, Hope, and Healing Symposium, because just right out of the chute, Dave's going to come and give you some things that will literally be life-changing, life-altering.
Absolutely. And there will be other people there. So the chance to network, just like when I went to the Hope Center for a National Day of Prayer, and here is this veteran who gets up with his deep voice and gives a prayer, and I go, I got to meet that guy. And my wife, when there came a break, she said, you disappeared. And then I looked up, you look like you had a JATO rocket on your rear end going across the thing for this guy who spoke. And man, you were, next thing I know is you two guys were like best buddies.
Right.
Meeting people.
Yes.
Meeting people and developing relationships. And I have invited Military Peer Network. I've invited the Symbios are going to be there to talk about what they can do to physical healing as well as mental healing. This is going to be an opportunity for healing.
Yes.
This is going to be an opportunity, though, for success. Everybody wants to go hear, you know, a great success motivator who says, here's what you're going to do to make $1 billion.
Mm-hmm.
I got to tell you, here's what you're going to do to live a happy life and live with hope, live and heal every day, and be able to help other people.
Yes.
Now, we're going to come back in just a minute. Please share this program with your friends. The symposium is free. We're doing a box lunch. It's free. And a lot of people say, well, it's worth what I'm paying for it. No, I'm paying for it. We're paying for it. Cedric's paying for it. We're doing this to bring you into the fold and ask you to participate with us in Veterans Impact Show, helping veterans bring this nation back together. Yes. That's what it's all about. Correct, Cedric?
That's it. Bringing us together, removing the division. And
all right. We're going to be right back after these words from all of our sponsors. Thank you for being on board. Stay with us. Veterans Impact is here for you. Welcome back to the Veterans Impact Show. And thanks to our sponsors, Fairway Independent Mortgage and Lone Star Wealth Strategies. Now, let's continue this great conversation. I got to tell you, we've got a great conversation today. And Cedric White, he's my navigator. He's my co-pilot. He's my pastor. He is a dear friend. And I got to tell you, you go through life, iron strengthens iron.
Amen.
And Cedric and I have not only become friends, but Diane and I went to Cedric and Michelle's training for military, thanks to the Cohen Foundation. And I got to tell you, it was amazing. I have the most fabulous marriage. It's better because we were able to understand some things. So we've been talking about Captain Dave Carey and all he brings. And I tell you, it's not all sad, bad, horror stories of the POW. He'll make you laugh.
Right.
Matter of fact, when he talks about being in the rice field, he'll make you laugh. And that's part of it. You got to keep your sense of humor. You got to keep your head on straight. The next guy I really think we'd like to talk about for a second is Bruce Hebel.
Mm-hmm.
Now, both of these guys are personal friends of mine. I met Bruce when I started at Dallas Theological Seminary, And I met this young man who came over and said, would you guys, talking to Diane and I, like to come share lunch with us and be at our table? And we're like, yeah, hey, great. So there was a group of his friends, and we met this young man, Andrew, and I am really impressed. And then Andrew and I are in a class together, and we became friends, and they had a little baby. We even became great friends, had them over for dinner, and we got to babysit for the babies. And that was great. But he was telling me about his father, who was a minister and a Dallas Theological Seminary graduate, who had gone through some really, really, really tough times. Matter of fact, Bruce made a statement. He had taken over a church and he didn't realize what a problem the church was in. And he said, you know what? I'm the shepherd, but sheep bite.
Yes.
Man, that's a statement. And a friend of his, Bruce Wilkerson, and many of you who may know the prayer of Jabez or some of the other things of Bruce Wilkerson, convinced him to write a book. And I got to tell you, he not only wrote a book, and I want to show you, Forgiving Forward, he teaches it. They have a workbook, and they have taught it around the world. When Diane and I were in Jerusalem, we found Tony and Bruce were there, and we had lunch with Tony and Bruce in Jerusalem. An amazing man, taught this all over the world. And think about Forgiving Forward. It is the heart of the gospel. And
Yes.
some of you may say, okay, I'm not religious, Jim. Don't get into Jesus and religiosity. I'm going to say, okay, if you are angry, you hate people for what they did to you, or you hate circumstances. How many of us in the military had a bad NCO we had to deal with? How many of us in the military had bad situations we had to deal with? How
Yes.
many of us were in real combat? And I was on aircraft carriers, but not compared to my brothers that were in country, or in Iraq, or in Afghanistan, or in Somalia, in any number of places. And there's a lot of anger and there's a lot of hate. One of the things Bruce says, and I don't mean to steal his thunder, but if you carry that kind of unforgiveness, you carry that hatred, you carry that anger, it's like you drinking poison wanting the other person to die. The problem is the poison of unforgiveness, the poison of that hate is poisoning you.
That's right.
Now, what Bruce Hebel has done is not just to preach a gospel, good news, but he has developed a protocol. He and his wife, Tony, and let me tell you something, he not only teaches it, but teaches a class, which we're going to have them stay over and teach a class on September 7th at St. Paul's, right? Here in Frisco?
Well, actually, it's just north of Frisco in Prosper, Texas.
Prosper, okay.
St. Paul Episcopal on the corner of Court and First Street. It's 420 South Court Road in Prosper, Texas. Just literally up the road a little bit from the Hope Center. And
by the way, that is a beautiful church.
Yeah, we're excited about it because he and his wife, they're teaching this together. What better way to exemplify the need for forgiveness than a husband and wife, right? Let's start there. And then let's go beyond that. Michelle and I, we began dealing with blended families, and there's a lot of forgiveness because, like you said, Jim, there's a lot of anger that goes on in situations like that. And we have to learn to forgive children, forgiving parents, people who, it doesn't have to be in a war type situation. Literally, there's wars and battles going on in our homes, in our schools, in our politics today. There's some forgiveness that needs to happen for healing to happen in our families, in our homes. And then, like you said, going back all the way to military, some of us have learned to carry the load of unforgiveness so well that it feels like it's normal. It has become the norm.
It does. Can I tell you a story?
Sure.
Okay, Bruce and Tony came to Dallas to speak when we were involved in fellowship, and Andrew and I, Andrew primarily got the church to bring him in because Andrew started going to our fellowship as well. So we had they stayed with us, and Tony and Bruce, we had a reception for them the night before they were going to do a workshop. So he spoke in the church on Sunday, gave the sermon, and then was going to come in on Monday and teach a class. I got to tell you, when we come back from this break, we're going to tell you a story about transformation, about changing a life that
Yes.
I sat there in my living room and I got to witness and be a part of that. Transformation, not just change, real transformation. And that man that was transformed, I see him on Facebook. I see him in church. I see him in the community. That is the happiest guy I've ever seen. He is hugging his grandchildren. He is remarried. His life is great. We're going to tell you his story when we come right back after these words from all of our partners. Again, thank you to Fairway. Thank you to Symbios. Thank you to Ascend Podcasting. Thank you to my wife, Diane. And most of all, thank you, Cedric. We're right back. Welcome back to the Veterans Impact Show. And thanks to our sponsors, Fairway Independent Mortgage and Lone Star Wealth Strategies. Now, let's continue this great conversation. Well, I promised a story. So we have this open house, and a friend of mine calls me and says, "Can such and such come over?" And I go, "Oh, yeah, okay." I knew this guy, and every time you saw him in church or you saw him, big guy, construction guy, great guy, but man, you did not want to ask him how he felt or how he was doing because you would get a blowback that was really, really, really angry. Very toxic. Thank you, Diane. And so this guy comes in, he's on my couch, he's in the living room, we have this reception, everybody leaves, he's sitting there and talking with Bruce and I, and Bruce says, "Would you like to go through the protocols for Forgiving Forward?" And he said, "Absolutely." Now, let me tell you his story. I don't want to go into it too deep, but was one of the most horrible, tragic, had to do with a horrible divorce, had to do with his son being killed, had to do with a lot of horrible things that had happened to him. I can't imagine anything more terrible than my son being shot and killed. I can't think of anything more than betrayal and then ending up in a divorce you don't want. He was wounded like somebody had thrown an IED right under his truck. Bruce took him through the protocols of Forgiving Forward. And I don't want to tell the whole story, but I will tell you, he transformed right there in front of me. And the last question Bruce asked him was, "Who else have you not forgiven?"
Yeah.
And finally, he said,
Himself.
"Me.
Yeah.
I haven't forgiven myself."
Yeah.
I saw the look on his face. I saw his countenance. He hugged both of us and left. And let me tell you, Diane and Tony and other ladies were upstairs. They were shaking and baking and praying. Man, the next night we had the Forgiving Forward class, and I saw this guy in the back of the room, and I waved at Bruce and pointed, and Bruce asked him to come up. And the guy comes up, hugs Bruce, asks for forgiveness of every member in the church for his attitude and behavior for the last 3 or 4 years, and asked forgiveness of the ministers who had tried to help him but couldn't.
My goodness.
How many men and women have we met as veterans who lost brothers and sisters to IEDs, who lost in combat, who lost even to accidents? How many lost brothers and sisters who have committed suicide as a result?
Right.
Bruce offers not just words, but protocol and transformation to get rid of that anger, to get rid of that hate, to get rid of that poison. Wow.
And Jim, we're opening this up again, going from Captain Carey to Bruce and Tony with the Forgiving Forward. How much, just right there, just the meat that's going to be offered in those two areas. How many, as you asked the question, how many people do we know that actually have a problem with unforgiveness? Forgiveness is transformational. Forgiveness literally takes a weight off of the person and allows them an air of freedom that they didn't even know they needed. They didn't. A lot of people are holding themselves captive in a mental, psychological, and spiritual jail cell due to unforgiveness. And it does literally affect the physicality of the body. It affects the psychology and the physicality of the body and physiology of the body.
And Dr. Ashmore, the PhD who owns Symposium, could probably tell me all the medical reasons why, and she will be there. But I got to tell you, a lot of PTS, it appears to me, also comes from this situation, which changes your physiology and your psychology. You're 100% right. And so Bruce and Tony are going to be doing the next day, September the 7th, at St. Paul's. And again, we want them to go to, we've got a flyer. We're getting it out there. We want people, if you need to know about this, Diane's going to post it. Matter of fact, Diane, when is our Veterans Impact Show website up and operational? Is it now?
Yesterday.
Okay, yesterday. So you can go to veteransimpactshow.com, and it's going to be posted. Go to veteransimpactshow.com. The seminar that Symposium that Cedric and I are putting on is free. If you want to make a contribution, hallelujah, praise the Lord. The deal that Tony and Bruce are doing, they're putting a lot of expense into this. You can make a donation. You can help them out as well. But let me tell you, the books you're going to get, you can buy the training you're going to get coaching you're going to get is transformational. Now, there is one more speaker that I think is world class. Basically, it's you, Cedric. So tell us about you and Michelle and what you're going to be teaching.
Well, Michelle and I, of course, we are both life core therapists. We are board certified belief therapists. Our focus when we're not pastoring is to work with individuals and couples and families dealing from a relationship perspective. We get everything from premarital to marriage to unfortunately sometimes divorce care. And the book that Jim is holding up right there is 4 T's for Your Heart, Steps to a Successful Relationship. That was given to us literally biblically from God in the way he set things in place at the very beginning for having a relationship with man. He said, if we go back to the basics, if we go back to just the basics of a relationship, we'll have everything we need. The 4 steps, I'll share that. 4 steps: time, talk, which move us to the 3rd step. The more time I spend with you, the more talking I do, the more truth I learn about you. And the more truth I learn about you determines the level of trust that I can give to you. Quite often, people jump into relationships and they don't know the truth, or they ignore the truth. And then they go to trust, and trust is broken. Their trust is hurt. So what do? We come to work with them. If their whole heart is to make the relationship strong, to repair broken trust, we help them to do that. We help them to do it from biblical standards, but not preaching, right? I always say I'm a pastor, so I can say it. If preaching fixed everything, then everybody in church would be okay. Everything, if you go to right, but that's not the case. Preaching has its place, but then there's the applicability of the word and the tools and the principles that God has put in place that we like to help people with. How do you apply what you hear on Sunday morning? How do you apply those things that grandmama and mama used to tell you in real life when you're dealing? Forgiveness, right? A biblical principle, but how do I apply that when I've been hurt so badly. How do I, how can I get over this thing? And so tools and helping them to take the focus off of self and put it in other areas that are more helpful and will not cause you to constantly be in that cycle. So Michelle and I, we love it, and people love coming to us because we give them both perspectives. You're not just sitting in front of a man. So if I say, well, Miss Jones, it appears that what you did may have been a little bit askew in the way of helping your relationship, where she doesn't feel like I'm siding with the husband. They're not just sitting with Michelle so that if she says something to the man or agrees with the wife, they don't feel like she's siding with them. So we want to give a balanced, biblical, up to date, if you will, approach to helping people with relationships. And so in the symposium, our hope is to bring the help, the hope, and the healing aspect all together, and sharing some aspects of how we can do that, and then with the vendors that are going to be there.
I got to tell you, we're given tools.
Yes.
And a lot of people tell me, well, Jim, I don't want to be preached at, but I need some tools. I need some help getting a bigger disability. I need some this, some that. And I got to tell you, we're providing tools.
Mm-hmm.
These are the tools that are going to help you rise above the disability.
Right.
Rise above. That doesn't mean they're going to take it away. But if you think of yourself as disabled, then you're harming yourself. My opinion. Okay.
Yes.
I know Alan Clark. I've gotten to know Alan Clark quite well. Honorable Alan Clark served several presidents. Amazing man. Lost both legs in Vietnam. He leads so much here in Dallas that it's just a truly blessed to know him.
Yes.
He doesn't act like. Matter of fact, I think he was like 5'9" when he had his legs, and so when they made the prosthetics, he said, "Well, I want to be 6'1". So he's 6'1".
All right.
I guess he can be whatever he wants to be, but he's got a great attitude and he leads. How many more people? Alan Clark, Dave Carey,
Yes,
Bruce Hebel, people who have been horribly, horribly wounded. I met a man at Symbios. Let me tell you something. He was a squad leader in Afghanistan. His squad got wiped out. There were 3 of them that survived. They came home. His two of his surviving buddies committed suicide. He was about to commit suicide, and he started getting treatments from Symbios and help. I saw him a couple of weeks ago. He was great. I mean, he was feeling great. He was off of alcohol, off of the drugs, doing great, and transformed. Thank you, Diane. Man, I got the greatest wife in the world. Well, maybe Michelle's pretty good too, but I'm telling you, we're here to help people. Now, if you want to know more, I want you to go write this down. Diane's going to put it up. www.davecarey.com. That's Dave Carey, CAREY.com, or www.forgivingforward.com. That's forgivingforward.com. And then www.healingthinehearts.org. Healingthinehearts.org. What Cedric and I are all about is help, hope, and healing.
That's it.
We want people to come together and be stronger. We want people to get off of the narcotics, the opioids, with the self-medication with alcohol, and feeling that they are hopeless.
Yes.
So I just say, oh, Miss Bushman, thank you for stepping in. Diane just put it up. I got to tell you, she is a great lady. I've spoken to her in Florida many times. I know Joe Delaney is on as well, and Joe is a great, great person. I got to tell you, you're going to get a chance to go to this. You're going to meet some great men and women, and every one of us in that room carries some scars.
Yes.
Every one of us in that room carry some emotional baggage that we have been through, whether it was the military or personal life. Matter of fact, Cedric, I had a psychologist when I was single and I was dating. I went to a psychologist. He said, Jim, you're hearing all these stories because probably 3 out of every 4 women in the United States have been either mentally, physically, emotionally abused.
Yes.
That, and sexually by age of 14, that Child Protective Services should have been called. There's a lot of adults in the senior community that are being abused, and they need to be healed. They need to have the strength to forgive.
Jim,
yeah.
I'm sorry. I was just going to say the majority of us are what I call walking wounded. We're walking around. We carry wounds. We look great on the outside. The physical appearance on the outside looks great, but you never know what's behind the door. Before we moved to Prosper, when we were in the city of Frisco, there was a beautiful couple that lived there, and one of the most affluent couples in the neighborhood. They were doing quite well as far as we saw on the outside. Of course, one night, the police cars show up, fire trucks show up, and there's been a physical assault. And come to find out, it had been going on for years, even to the point of decades. And we just all found out about it because they held up a very good outward appearance. And so many people are, like I said, are carrying around that load. They're carrying around that outward appearance of everything's okay, when you know what, just coming and getting some of
Oops, you just cut out
some of these tools that are going to be offered at the Help, Hope, and Healing Symposium. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're buffering a little bit.
Can you hear me, Jim?
Yes, sir. Got you.
Okay. Yeah, but if they just show up for this symposium.
Well, you mentioned a couple that was in your neighborhood. I get right off the top of my head, and I can think of couples that I have known where alcohol, abuse, narcotics, other things, sexual infidelity, all of these things were really a manifestation of deeper, sometimes generational.
Yes.
I've got some friends that, man, I worked for his dad. I thought the world of his dad. His dad had been a B-17 pilot, World War II, flew, I think, 25 plus missions. He was an amazing man, but man, he was dysfunctional, and his son grew up in that dysfunctionality. And then I come to find out his father's father, his grandfather, and his uncle had this alcoholism and this dysfunctionality. Sometimes it's generational. Sometimes it's generated by our life experiences. And it's not just the military who got hurt, blown up, wounded, saw horrible things. Good grief. My stepson, JR, told me about when he was in EMS, a really, really horrible accident. Our police officers, our EMS, our firemen, they go through this every day. We go through this every day. All you got to do is, we were in Galveston. You travel on the Houston freeways. You travel on the Dallas freeways. You want a real thrill? Travel on the freeways in Washington, D.C. That'll give you PTS right now. So here's what's going to come back as we finish this up and put this program into the dock. This is Veterans Impact Show. Cedric and I are here for you. You join us on September the 6th. Welcome back to the Veterans. Thanks to our sponsors, Fairway Independent Mortgage and Lone Star Wealth Strategies. Now, let's continue this great conversation. Man, I got to tell you, we're going to next weekend is Labor Day. We're going to replay this show for Labor Day. And so we're going to take off and we're going to take a break. and that way we can help Cedric. But you know, the most exciting thing about that weekend for me,
Tell me.
I get to preach in your church.
That's right.
I get to speak to your congregation, and I am so excited about that I was asked to do that. And I got to tell you, I hope that we bring the same sort of energy. But again, I want to say thank you, Cedric, for all you do for us. And also, if you have a question, you can send us a message through Facebook, especially Paula Bushman. Thank you for all you're doing. And Joe Delaney, thank you for all you're doing. You can go to Jim at veteransimpactshow.com. That's Jim at veteransimpactshow.com. Send me a message. And if it's for Cedric, I'll make sure he gets it as well. And we'll make sure he has a ability to get a message from that.
What's Cedric's email?
Well,
Cedric,
right
give
now,
out your email. Give out your email, brother.
Right now, email is Cedric, that's CEDRIC, at HHEARTS, so hearts.org, Cedric at hearts.org. And for those who want to get to our website, even easier if you just go to www.hearts.org. That'll get you there as well.
And what a beautiful little church. You actually hold your services in St. Paul's Episcopal up in Prosper.
Yes, sir.
What a beautiful facility. What beautiful people. And I got to tell you, if you don't have a church and you live in the North Texas area, contact Cedric, get invited, come join us. But because I got to tell you, I have fallen in love with the people in his little church, and I think it needs to be a lot bigger church. So it's all about relationships.
Exactly.
It's not about the church. It is about the people, right?
That's exactly what we were invited in after COVID, and people were starting to come back to the churches. We were at that time, the church where we were having services was bought out by a bigger church during all of the transition pandemic. And we had spoken to Father Tom. He's become a very good friend of mine, the vicar at St. Paul. And he contacted me literally the week that I started to look for a new location. The same week, I'm talking 2 days, he contacted me and asked me, hey, Pastor Cedric, are you guys, do you have a new place to worship? I said, we're looking right now, talking to some people. He said, well, our congregation came to us and asked if Heart Fellowship, which is the name of our church, would be interested in using our facility. And it was literally that simple. Whereas before we, a new church plant, you got to go in, you got to set up chairs and the speakers. Father Tom at St. Paul, their body is so wonderful. All we do is walk in, we have church. I'm a big proponent of you leave it better than you find it. So make sure we do everything correct, but we have a wonderful time. And that is what we're talking about and when we talk about help, hope, and healing, when we're talking about removing the silos and working together, that's an example of it. He is Episcopalian. We are non-denominational. We serve the same God. We're in the same community. Why can't we work together? Because the biggest thing is about helping others.
You talk about non-denominational. Let's see. I grew up Presbyterian. When I was in the Navy, I went to St. James by the Sea in La Jolla, which is Episcopalian. So I was Episcopalian. Love it. Love the tradition and history. Mm-hmm. Then I came back and I went to Lovers Lane United Methodist with Tom Shipp, and he and I were close friends, and he put me on the board of the singles group. Then I help start churches.
Yes.
I helped start, Hillcrest Church. I have been a person who really enjoys the family in the church because, again, iron strengthens iron.
Yeah.
You can learn from your other people and being involved in a church. We're non-denominational, but I think I've been through just about every denomination.
I'm the same way, Jim. And we have one rule. That one rule is no perfect people allowed. Because our mindset is if you're perfect, we don't want to mess you up because we know we're all imperfect. So you probably need to go somewhere else if you're perfect, because we're going to mess that up. And we're all, like I said, walking wounded, just trying to get better.
What? How many times though? And I've again been involved in churches literally all my life. How many times have I sat there and I listen to somebody and I go, "What? Where is this coming from?" Nothing is perfect. Okay,
Right.
We have seen several pastors in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, around the nation, who've fallen recently. Nobody's perfect. You don't worship the pastor.
Exactly.
Your pastor is a leader. You got to build relationships, and you got to build relationships with people that will iron forges iron.
That's it.
And I got to tell you, I'm really thrilled to be able to come to your church. But again, to put this symposium on, again, go to our website, veteransimpactshow.com, or the various places we've talked about, Healing Thine Hearts Ministry, healingthinehearts.org, forgivingforward.com, davecarey.com. We're going to have a great free show for you. You want to make a donation, go right ahead. You think it's worthwhile. But if you want to go to Bruce Hebel's deal, they could use the donation because they're spending a lot of money to come to Dallas.
There's a fee.
Yeah, so
$10.
make a donation. There is a fee for it, but it's worthwhile. All right, Cedric, I like to close with a prayer.
Yes, sir.
So, Lord God of the universe, we are so thankful for the relationships that you have given us and the relationship you have given us with you. Thank you, dear God, for helping and putting a hedge of protection around our active duty military, our first responders, those who run into the fire instead of away from it. Thank you, dear God, for our veterans who are choosing ways to lead in this nation, men and women of strength, of character, of honesty and truth. Dear God, we thank you for them, and we thank you, God, for bringing this nation back together. One nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you for being part of our program. Come join us, subscribe, be with us. We're here.